Hi, Dr. Collier. Today I hope to explain to you what work ethic means to me and its value in my own life. So, to me, work ethic simply means believing that work is worth it. I think that someone who has a good work ethic maintains professionalism in the course of her job. She's someone who is dedicated and committed to improving herself and showing off the best of the company that she's working for. She is an encouragement to her coworkers and customers alike. She maintains a positive, respectful attitude when dealing with customers or even bosses, and she's someone who believes in the value of her own work. I think that someone who maintains a good work ethic is going to be someone who, even at the 8th hour of her shift, when she is completely exhausted, has a good attitude. She puts on a smiling face for her customers and does her best to care for them as she would people who came in at the very beginning of her shift when she was still full of energy. I think that someone with a good work ethic is going to be a person who exudes a Christ-like attitude towards people that she's working with, and she doesn't take her job lightly. She understands that the work she's doing is important and it needs to be done, even if it doesn't necessarily feel super important to her. A person with good work ethic is going to be someone who sees tasks that need to be done, and even if no one else is willing to do it, she is someone who will step up and take control of the situation and do even the dirty tasks that no one wants to do because she understands that they need to be done, and it will reflect well on her that she does have a good work ethic. It's important for people to recognize their own work ethic because if you understand where you are with your own work ethic, you can improve yourself. For me personally, in researching work ethic, I was very familiar with a lot of the terms that I read that were associated with someone having a good work ethic. However, when it came to the positivity aspect, I was a little bit surprised. I'd always understood that having a good attitude on the job was something nice to have and something that bosses appreciated, but I never really connected to it being part of someone's work ethic before. So for me, understanding now that positivity is part of a good work ethic and not just working hard at the tasks and getting them done in a timely manner, I can now improve on my own positivity in the workplace because that is an aspect that I haven't really focused on in the past. In my work at Food Lion, it's really easy for me to do my job quickly, scan items, say hi to customers, and move on to the next person. And it's easy to fall into kind of a slump with that attitude because the job is so repetitious and monotonous that it becomes very easy to just pass over people and not really treat them as individual customers instead of the next task that needs to be accomplished in order for the shift to be over. So maintaining a positive attitude is something that I will strive harder to attain while I'm working in the future, and other people can have similar revelations if they delve into and examine their own work ethic. I think I have developed my own work ethic in light of many different people who have influenced me and in light of many different situations that I've been in. Most recently, I've been impacted by professors and peers and bosses whose own work ethics and demands of me have really instilled in me a stronger work ethic, I believe. But my work ethic doesn't start with them. It goes back to my childhood and watching my father. I think he is the person whose work ethic I most admire. When I was 2 years old, he moved my family, which consisted of my mother, myself, and my younger sister, Lauren, from our home in Lenoir, North Carolina to Wake Forest, where he attended Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary for 7 years. While he was there studying biblical foundations and biblical missions, he earned his bachelor's and master's degrees. I'm really proud of him for doing that because not a lot of people from the city where I was born in and the city where I currently live now try to attain those levels of education. He really stepped outside of what was the norm and pursued a better life for himself. But that's not the only part of his work ethic that I really admire him for. On top of taking all of the course hours that he had to take at Southeastern, he also maintained a very rigorous work schedule to support my family. He kept up 3 part-time jobs at the same time, often working third shift on the nights before he would have really intense classes in order to support my family well, which meant that he wouldn't get home until like 3 or 4 at night sometimes, and then he would have to turn around and go to early morning classes, and he maintained straight A's for the majority of his college career because of how dedicated he was to working and to getting his work done in a timely manner. On top of his schoolwork, his coursework, and maintaining his outside jobs that were our only source of income at the time, my dad also served as a Sunday school teacher alongside my mother and a youth missions minister at our church. Whenever there were jobs that needed to be done, my dad would be the first person that people would call. He was always willing to take on extra tasks for others to help them out, even when it ate into his own family time and when it took him away from my mother and my sisters and eventually my brother and I. So there are several aspects of his work ethic, again, like I've mentioned, that I admire. But one specific aspect that I would like to highlight is his punctuality, because that is an aspect that I can see clearly represented in my own life. One specific instance of his punctuality that I would like to mention would be his attitude towards Sunday mornings. When it came to church, my family was never late in the entire history that I can remember from our life on Rice Circle, which was the neighborhood we lived in. We would always show up to church on time, and by on time, I mean we were there at least half an hour early. We would often bring donuts or coffee to people who were already there, and we would help stack or unstack the chairs and set up the auditorium before we moved into our actual church building. And then when we moved to our church building, which my dad helped build in what spare time he managed to scrounge up, we were always the first there to help, again, unstack the chairs. And then when service was over, we were always the last left to vacuum up, to clean up, to make sure the workers weren't having to do everything by themselves, because my dad and my family and I were there, and we made games out of stacking chairs and everything to make sure that the jobs that were needing to get done were done. And my dad helped us see from a really young age that that was important. But coming back to his punctuality, with services, we were always there early, and so that attitude kind of stayed with me throughout my life, and I am still on time for classes, for work, for appointments, wherever I need to be. Sometimes, though, this has come to be a little bit detrimental to me. I can remember a specific Sunday when I took my suite mates and my roommate to church with me for the very first time at TCC, the church at Cherrydale, in Cherrydale downtown, or not downtown, but in Cherrydale. And we arrived at service about 8 minutes late for Sunday school. And instead of going inside the building, I decided that it would be best for us to just wait in the car for the 45 minutes until service began, because I didn't want to feel that shame, I guess, of walking in just a little bit late. I think we might have gone to get Starbucks or something to fill the time, but I wouldn't go in because I didn't want to be late. So instead we arrived early for actual church service instead of going to Sunday school. Outside of my dad's influence in my life, many other people have shaped my work ethic. Like I mentioned, professors and peers have been a really strong influence in my life recently. In high school, I wasn't a really good student. I didn't make straight A's by any estimation of straight A's at all. I was a really poor student. And because I was such a poor student in high school, I feel like I'm not very smart on occasion, which is normally. And I constantly put pressure on myself to try and do my best in classes, because I feel like if I'm not making A's and proving to myself that I can do a really good job, that I'm not actually a good student, and it feels like my life is kind of a lie. So I've enrolled myself in many honor societies and in many different clubs, the honors program, in order to prove to myself that I am capable of doing these kinds of things. And when it comes to professors specifically in their classes, I strive to do the best that I can and earn those A's so that they won't be disappointed in me, so that I won't be disappointed in myself. I really hate disappointing people, and if I've managed to make a professor believe that I'm a good student, which I don't believe that I am all the time, then I don't want to let them down by not performing my absolute best in their classroom. With peers specifically, the drive from perceived competition, which is often a figment of my imagination, kind of lives in me, and that pushes me to try and do better in my classes as well. As a Christian, I think work ethic should have a really strong impact in your life, in my life, and reflect the attitude that Christ showed to his disciples and to really everyone else around that he was teaching in being a person of great moral character. Morality plays, I think, a great deal into work ethic, because if you have morals, you're not going to lie on the job. You're not going to trick people or be mean to customers or show a bad attitude, which is something, again, that I mentioned struggling with in the past. I think someone who is a Christian understands that work needs to be done without complaining, and they can get the job done to the very best of their ability. In conclusion, I think that I can improve my own work ethic by more fully realizing my definition of it that I've mentioned earlier, and doing work not just for work's sake alone, but for the joy that comes from helping other people and from being a witness to others through my own work ethic. And I hope to be able not to worry too much about others' perceptions of me in the future in order to carry out my jobs and even callings to the best of my ability. Thank you.